Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be talking about Cujo by Stephen King. So just a quick little background about my Stephen King reading. This is actually only the second Stephen King book I have read, the only other one being It, which I read I think 2 years ago or so. And I'll just say here at the beginning of the video that I thoroughly enjoyed this book. This was an easy 4-star rating and honestly really saved my month of February reading wise. I read a lot of disappointing books in February and just picked up Cujo on a whim and thoroughly enjoyed it. I enjoyed it so much, in fact, that it has basically made me want to read a lot of Stephen King. I even made a whole video about my Stephen King TBR, and it is all because of this book. So if you are looking for a quick recommendation, yes, I highly recommend Cujo. I think it's a great time. I think it is what everybody describes as Stephen King to a T, which will be some things that people do not like, but for me it was a great experience, and I'm so glad that I finally got around to reading it. So if you somehow don't know, Cujo follows the attack of a rabid Saint Bernard dog, and honestly this story is a lot more than that, but that is kind of like the basic selling point of the book, that there's this dog that basically traps and attacks people, and it is pretty harrowing, that aspect of the book, but this book is so much more than just that aspect. This is a human story down to a T. Honestly, if this were a TV show, it almost feels like the Cujo dog part of the show would be like the B plot line. You know, when a TV show has two different, things happening at the same time, there's an A and a B plot. Honestly, the focus of the story for a lot of it isn't actually around Cujo and him going rabid and everything that entails with that. A lot of it is really, we are just following a family that is on the brink of failure in a multiple number of different ways. I don't really want to go into what those are because I think it kind of spoils the book, but there are multiple fronts that this family is going to have to face and get through together. One ends up being Cujo, but there are so many other things happening in this book, and that is something that I just loved about it. So let's go ahead and get into what I did like about this book. I think it's a special thing when an author is able to make you feel like a place is so real and like you are in a place. And Castle Rock, Maine is a place that I feel like I have been. I feel like I lived with the Trenton family. I feel like I went through their struggles together throughout this entire book. It just felt so real, and it's a magical thing that I think King was able to do here. It didn't matter how mundane and boring and just slice of life things that were happening in this book that, you don't care. Like, they're going and running errands. Why am I finding this interesting? Why am I invested? Why do I care? And I think it's just the way that King was able to craft the characters and the story and just place you into this world. You are just that fly on the wall, seeing things that are happening. And that is the biggest strength of this book, because like I said, the selling point of this book is the rabid dog. And while yes, that definitely does play a factor into the story, it is not the main thing. This book is a lot longer than that aspect of the story in itself would probably be. If you took just the Cujo aspects of this book, it's probably like 30% of the book, maybe even a little bit less. Just the way that the story bounces around and builds up to it. It's a slow build, and it just feels so real. Like, this is something that, and maybe it's based on a true story, maybe I should look into that, but this just feels like something that could happen in a small town in what I think this is taking place in like the 80s or something. This just feels like something that could happen, and I think it's just so brilliantly done, and it's just so real. I felt like I was there, which is exciting and terrifying at the same time because of some of the things that do happen. I will say I really did enjoy the characters. I didn't like all of the characters, which is good. I don't think you're supposed to like all of the characters. I think King does a brilliant job of showing the terror that a child would feel in this situation, and not just the Cujo situation, but the things that are going on with his family. You feel how real the wife Donna is, and just the things that she does, and while you might not agree with them or want her to do those things, it all just feels real. Same thing with the husband, his struggles with work, everything that is happening. They're just real characters that just you're there with, and you get it. And it's like, I could see myself sitting down and having a beer with one of them and just being like, them telling me the story and it just being real. And that is obviously something I'm harping on quite a lot here, because it's just the best aspect of this book is how I just felt like I was there and it was real. Like I said, the characters are good. They're fleshed out. There are many different kinds of characters. There are characters that you'll root for. There are characters that you kind of want bad things to happen to, but they are all there. They all feel fleshed out and real. And like I said, not many books get me to that level of feeling, especially with how short it, in a longer fantasy series or something, I feel like that's something that can happen. But in a standalone book like this, it's rare to get that level of connection with, especially how many characters they are. And like I said, everything just feels plausible. There's nothing so far out that kind of takes you out of the story like, oh yeah, that's what happened. And I think that's just an important part of the story. Now, I have pretty much raved about this book, and personally, I don't really have anything negative to say about it. This is pretty close to a perfect book for me. Now, some things that are not going to work for some people. If you are like me, kind of just getting into your Stephen King journey, I think you should read this book, because I think it will definitely let you know what kind of King books you will or won't like, because this is a meandering book. There are sections of this book where you're just like, what are we doing? Why are we here? Personally, like I said, I loved it. I love just being there and living in the world and just being there. But some people are going to be like, I'm here for a dog attack that's, going rabid and all these things. And like I said, that's a small portion of this book. Is it there? Yes. Is that aspect of the story delivered on? Yes, absolutely. And I think it is done super, super well. But for a lot of people, getting to that point is going to feel like a drag, and you're going to be wondering why King is spending time on all of these other aspects of the story. And unfortunately, I know that's not going to work for a lot of people, but for me, it was fantastic. So if you haven't read Cujo, let me know what you think about it down below in the comments. If you plan on reading it, let me know what you think after you finish it, because I would love to talk about this book. It was just, I had such a fun time with it. It was great. But that is all for me, and as always, have a good one.